Welcome one, welcome all to the Sunday Night Deathburger Weekly Market Update for the week ending September 24th, 2010. This is John Galt speaking, your esteemed host from the voice of Galt over at the Watchman.fm. And as you can see, Kramer's got his plastic bulls, but we're only one step away from the kind of carnage we saw in 2008 as I have up on the screen. And you don't want to look like this lady's face, so let's get right into it. Happy, joy time. The markets are looking wonderful, as you can see from this chart of the Dow. The Dow just looks like everything is going and cooking right along, and of course the unicorns are pooping rainbows and skittles all over the markets because that's what Bubble Vision and the market, the political propaganda wants you to believe. You see the same thing in the S&P 500 cash. It has climbed back above the 200-day moving average and everything is wonderful, which means that the Unicorn Air Force dispatched by Ben Bernanke appears to be doing some good. But let's get into the hardcore reality of what's happening. The XLF is not validating this. The death cross is still intact, and technically the death cross is still intact in the S&P 500 and Dow. It has not re-emerged to a golden cross, but the failure we've seen to get back above the 200-day moving average again during this rally means, okay, we need more unicorns that poop skittles. But the problem is that this isn't going to hold. The underlying stocks aren't supporting it. Goldman Sachs, the big bad Mac Daddy of them all, is showing a failure not only at the 200-day moving average from the death cross recently, but it is also showing a failure at the 50-day. Let's zoom into the 6-month chart. As you can see from the 6-month chart, we have what's known as an epic fail, a fail at the 200-day moving average. It declined back down, rallied up towards the 50-day moving average, and failed again while the market is rallying to 4-month highs. The 3-month really displays that it's a super epic fail. Just a not technical lingo, but just an obvious point. We didn't get above the 200-day or the 50-day moving average for any sustained period of time to validate the rally, and without Goldman Sachs, this market rally is not going to last. So I don't care what the Unicorn Air Force tells you and how many Skittles you eat, it's not going to last. You think that's the only stock I look at for this? Look at Morgan Stanley. 1-year chart, death cross, even a worse pattern than Goldman Sachs. You see the deterioration with the 200-day moving average sloping to the downside. Well, in recent days and weeks, the 50-day moving average has rolled downwards also. It started to accelerate to the upside. Now it's rolled over and it's starting to move down again in parallel with the 200-day. The epic fail at the 200-day moving average is displayed here was that it didn't cross nor even hold near the 200-day moving average before it started declining, despite the market rally we've witnessed in recent weeks. This is not going to end well for all the happy, joy people. Let's zoom in on the 3-month. Super epic fail. We had a massive decline in the last couple of weeks. It did not hold the 200. It has not held the 50. Thus, I think this recent 4-month high that's being proclaimed by Bubble Vision will not hold. It's not got any support from the underlying financials. Let's take a consumer financial, Wells Fargo and Company. Again, a death cross, declining 200-day moving average, 50-day moving average rolling over to the downside. We've had a failure at the 200-day moving average, and it didn't even come close in the recent rally, and a failure at the 50-day moving average. Zooming in on the 3-month chart on candlesticks, it is even more pronounced. As you can see, we didn't get back above any kind of the moving averages for a sustained period of time. It held the 50 for only about a week and a half, and it is rolled over and starting to move south. We had a little bit of a bounce on Friday. I don't see this lasting. There's nothing in the underlying housing or consumer purchase data to support this. Even with all of the great news about existing home sales and stuff, most of that is going to the government. Wells Fargo is a good indicator. So the unicorns are going to have to poop a little harder and create more Skittles to validate this move. Another big Mac Daddy in this that the unicorns love to pronounce is JP Morgan. JP Morgan, death cross on the right hand side of the screen. Pretty obvious. We got up over the 200-day moving average and then we fell right back down recently. This is a leading indicator for what's about to happen. We did not get a higher high. We got a lower high. Hence, we're going to get a lower low. The 3-month indicates the oops that everyone doesn't want to talk about. You don't hear about the financials, but they're the underlying aspect of the market that would have validated this move had they surged to new highs, or at least recent highs, to confirm the move to the upside. Well, here we are looking at this chart for JP Morgan on a 3-month basis. We got above the 50, but we never held the 200. Odds are it's going to follow suit, roll back under the 50, unless Mr. Unicorn starts eating more Skittles and producing more rainbows with gold and Skittles for people to purchase. It doesn't end there. The Philadelphia Regional Banking Indicator, the KBW Regional Banking Index, is a very good indication of just how much deterioration there's been. You had a death cross back in August. You have the market sloping down on a 50-day moving average, an attempted rally above the 50-day moving average, didn't even come close to the 200-day moving average, unlike the S&P 500 and Dow Jones. And now it rallied back on Friday, back above that, but is it a valid move? I don't think so. Look at the move down. Look at the part that's circled in the right-hand portion of your screen. The underlying banks are all feeling pressure. When you look at a Synovus or a Regions, even a SunTrust, there's some deterioration in their overall market condition, which seems to hint, and I do repeat, seems to hint at a problem that is getting worse. So when this guy comes on your television and starts throwing plastic bulls at you, you may want to consider that he's also part of the Unicorn Air Force. Maybe a little bit loopier part of it, but he wants you to sit there and take your money and throw it up in the air like the unicorn poops Skittles and gold buckets. Bank of America used to and does behave somewhat like the regional, so it's a pretty good indicator for what's going on because they have such a broad cross-section of consumer activity. You see the death cross back in June, July. You see deteriorating 200-day moving average. You see a declining 50-day moving average. On the right-hand side of the screen, you also see it didn't even come close to the 200-day moving average. That should tell you that the consumer is not participating in this so-called rally, nor quote-unquote summer of recovery. The super epic fail part is that it's barely holding the 50-day moving average. The rallies that we've seen have been on very light volume, that we're getting lower lows, lower highs. The 200-day moving average is now in a downward slope. The 50-day moving average is in a downward slope. I don't think this is an indicator the market will continue to support nor hold current levels in the broader indexes. Of course, you're going to hear otherwise from people who throw plastic bulls made in China at your television screen and also proclaim that technicals are dead again and that he uses the unicorn that poops Skittles indicator for his market decisions. A lot of people have emailed me and called the show and asked about gold. Well, gold is looking very nice, but if you start to look at the right-hand side of the screen from late July to this past week where we kissed the 1300 mark, you get a little bit of a disturbing hint there. That's been an almost straight up 45-degree angle. I mean, it's even higher than that, steeper than that, moving from the lower left-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner. Very nice bull move. Validates the long-term trend. 200-day moving average moving up, which is the red line. 50-day moving up, that's the blue line. But there's a reason for concern. The very nice but is quite simple. It is due for correction. It is a little bit frothy right now. It's oversold. It looks a lot like the S&P 500. Had a nice move from the end of August going into this last week in September. Very nice again, but on a longer term basis, the gold chart looks healthier than the S&P 500. The trend since we had the golden cross, which is where the blue line went up above the red line in 2009, has been maintained and is still accelerating to the upside. I think before we have a short-term pullback at around the 1350 level, which would be reflective of the summer consolidation, we'll pull back to where I have it circled somewhere in the 1150 to 1180 range. I would say even 1155 to 1160. I mean 1155 to 11, give or take a little bit, maybe even 1165. Silver is in the same kind of move. Silver has now matched the level of its last peak a few years ago, but you have a golden cross little bit late in 2009. Nice movement to the upside, more consolidation, so I think there's more to the upside in silver. I think we'll hit $23, building a nice case to reach $23 before we reach an oversold condition, and then it starts to peel off. I think foreigners are going to sit there and supply that. So you can either believe the purple unicorns that poop Skittles, or you can believe the guy that throws plastic bulls. And if you do that, don't blame me if you have this panic-stricken look like this broad on CNN who saw the Dow drop 778 points in September of 2008 when Congress screwed everything up. Because that's the reality I think we're going to face here in the near future. Not necessarily her with her mouth standing there open, but a massive decline, no warning, not a flash crash, broad-based selling, and destruction of the markets. In other words, that's right, greasy, tasty, smelly death burgers if you're short the market, long gold, long silver, and staying away from the disaster. A reminder, I'm on Monday through Friday on the Watchman.fm, www.thewatchman.fm, from 6 to 8 p.m. You can click on that link at my homepage, or you can sit there and just go there and download the archives. There's a link to the archives at my page at www.johngaltfla.com, which is on the beautiful sunset from Lido Key, johngaltfla.com. For the Voice of Galt, this is John Galt speaking. We'll see you on the air this coming Monday night.